Good morning, everyone. My name's Nikki Harrison, and I'm going to be chairing this session today on our Business Sustainability Challenge briefing. Rob, can we move to the next slide, please? So welcome. We're just going to let a few more people join, but we are going to begin. So firstly, just a few housekeeping rules. So everybody will be automatically muted when they join. And as we go through the presentation, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat and we will have time at the end to answer those questions. The whole session will be recorded and will be made available online to other interested parties and viewers. And we expect the whole session to take just over an hour. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Dr. Robert Saville, who's going to be talking to us today and taking us through the competition guidelines and everything you need to know. And then we're also going to be hearing from one of our previous grant winners, Jodie Mills from Canterbury Brewers and Distillers, and we'll introduce Jodie later on in the briefing. So as I said earlier, I'm Nikki Harrison. I'm the Director of Growing Kent Medway, and we're happy to have you join us today for this briefing on our Business Sustainability Challenge grant competition. So can we move through the slides? Thank you. So the agenda for this briefing today is I'm going to give a very brief introduction to Growing Kent Medway and what the programme is about and what we aim to support. And then we're going to move into the competition outline. So what is the competition about? Who's eligible to apply and how you apply and what that process looks like. And Robert Saville's going to take you through that whole agenda around the competition. He's also then going to take you through the application process, so we can fully explain the application process to people. And then we're going to hear from one of our round one winners, Jodie Mills. So that should be a really interesting part of the briefing session, where you get to really hear what a real life example looks like of a winning project. And then we're going to open the floor for Q&As, where you have the opportunity to ask questions and get some answers. And then we'll give you some additional signposting at the end for additional help and contacts that you can follow up on after this session. So next slide, please. So I'm going to give an introduction to Growing Kent Medway. So as I said, I'm Nikki Harrison. I'm the director of the programme. Basically, Growing Kent Medway is a UK funded programme. We're funded by UKRI Strength in Places Fund, and we're really set up to develop a world-class research and innovation enterprise cluster in the Kent Medway region. And we focus on supporting business innovation in technology-driven horticulture, in fresh produce packaging, and right across the food and drink processing and its supply chains. So we're there to support innovation in many different ways and to really help businesses grow and scale and create economic impact in the Kent Medway region. Next slide, please. So as part of the programme, we run a number of activities. Today, you're here to listen to the grant funding opportunity that we're opening today. But we also run a food accelerator programme, which is free for Kent and Medway businesses. We also run a mentoring programme to help businesses develop and scale and grow. Alongside this, we have a wraparound networking approach and a number of events that we link right through to our accelerator programs and our mentoring programs and other additional events alongside that as well for the sector. As part of the programme, we've invested in research infrastructure to support businesses to help them to innovate. And we work with academics and researchers and really facilitate that engagement through our grant funding activities as well. In addition, we look at the workforce of the future for the sector. And by the sector, I mean the horticulture and plant-based food sector. And we're really trying to understand how to support the development of skills and training opportunities in the region. And all our activities are there to support an inclusive growth agenda. So making our activities as accessible to as many people as possible in as many areas across Growing Kent Medway as possible as well. So as we move the slide on to talk about our grant funding activities. So in the programme, we have a total grant fund of 5 million to invest in industry-driven research and innovation right across the sector we operate in. We've already delivered a number of grant calls. So we have 4 different types of grants that we give out, all aimed at creating different types of impact and supporting in different ways. Today, we're going to be talking about our new round of Business Sustainability Challenge grants. And this is the second round that we're running. So it's opening today and it will be closing at the end of April. So there's a 2-month period to get applications into this current grant round. There is £600,000 available to give out in grants of between £10,000 and £50,000. And we are looking for businesses to provide 50% support for those projects that are awarded. So for a £50,000 grant, the whole project needs to cost £100,000, and that's scaled down to the lower funding amounts as well. Next slide, please. A large part of all our grants is our social value commitment. So I'm going to just talk very briefly about this because Robert Saville's going to go into a bit more detail about it, but it's about giving back into the community. So all our grants have this social value commitment. It's what businesses can do to feed back into their communities, and we ask for them to commit to this social value engagement. And a lot of it is about raising awareness and advancing the opportunities in the sector we work in, and whether that's the horticultural part of the sector or the food and drink production and processing part, or the industries that support the sector itself. So enabling technologies, for example, robotics, sensors, and artificial intelligence. So we do ask all our grant funding applicants to commit to delivering that social value activity as part of this grant. Next slide, please. So within the programme, we have our innovation growth managers across several of our partners, and these are our research partners. So today you're going to be introduced to Robert Saville, who's our innovation growth manager for NIAB, and he's based at NIAB Horticultural Research Centre in East Malling. Then we've got Gary Horton at Canterbury Christchurch University. We have Chris McCarthy at the University of Kent, and we have Parag Acharya at the University of Greenwich. And each of our partners have different specialities, which you can get in contact with us if you've got a particular query and you want to be put in contact with somebody to talk about a particular speciality. We can certainly direct you in the right direction with our partners. So as we move on, oh yes, we have a book. You're able today to book a one-to-one meeting as well after this grant briefing. So at the end of the presentation, there is a QR code or a web link where you can go in and book a one-to-one meeting with any of our innovation growth managers that you see on the slide today. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to hand over to Robert Saville, who's going to give us an overview of the competition outline and a bit more information for that. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Nikki. Okay, so in terms of what the Business Sustainability Challenge that we're putting to our potential applicants is, we are looking to fund innovative ideas, processes, or technologies to support sustainable production, products, and packaging in the horticultural food and drink supply chain. And here, by horticulture, we mean food-based horticulture, so not your ornamentals horticulture, for instance. And by food and drink, we mean your plant-based food and drink. So your project should try and lead to the sustainable improvement of your operations within the horticultural food and drink supply chain, or help create viable circular economies within those sectors in the Kent and Medway region. In terms of the grant, this is a competitive funding competition, and we're looking to supply grants to support innovation, research and development within your business or amongst a consortium or a consortium of businesses that you put together to apply for this funding. These are not capital grants, so they can't fund the purchase of capital items per se, but their capital usage costs are an eligible cost to put towards this, towards your total funding. So that means you can claim for the money against the usage of a capital item within the project for the purposes of the project. So this competition has been designed to support short-term, high-impact, innovative projects. And as Nikki has covered, we will look to support grants of £10,000 to £50,000 in costs. So that's projects ranging in total project value from 20,000 to 100,000, because we are offering a grant of 50% of these eligible costs, which are to be reimbursed at the end of the project. In this competition, we want to encourage collaborations, connect people within the supply chain of our target sectors, for instance, although it's not mandatory to put in a collaborative project, so you can go as a solo applicant. So who can apply? You need to be operating in the horticultural or and plant-based food and drink industries, or propose a project that will positively impact these sectors. The lead applicant must be a Kent or Medway-based micro, small or medium-sized business, but your collaborating partners can be of any sized UK business. But bear in mind that at least 75% of the project activity needs to take place in the Kent and Medway region. That's because we're a place-based programme, and that's what our grant funding is wanting to support. And we also want you, within the application process, as an opportunity for you to demonstrate how your project will impact the Kent and Medway economy. So we have set out 7 scope themes. So your project, we ask you to sort of fit your project into at least or one or more of these scope themes. And we've prepared a short animation, 2-minute video, in order to sort of help illustrate what we mean by these scope areas and sort of talk you through some hypothetical ideas that we would look to support. Apologies. There's meant to be sound with this video, but there's not. We'll just go through it without any sound. Okay, so there's just some examples of the kind of thing we're looking to support through round 2 of the Business Sustainability Challenge. And as Nikki said, later on in the presentation, we'll be looking at some real examples that we've supported in round 2. So more sort of examples of the type of work that we'd look to support. Nikki also mentioned the social value commitment that we ask all of our grant recipients across our funding program to align to and commit to. So as Nikki was setting out, Growing Kent and Medway works to deliver inclusive economic growth. And as part of that, we ask our grant recipients to help deliver back to the region. And that is through a social value commitment. So in the application process, we just ask you to make this commitment and also outline how you will deliver social value. And we have some guidance on this to help you through that process. You may well already be doing some of this, so we don't want you to reinvent the wheel, but to those who haven't, there's more guidance around how to do it. The amount of time committed or that we ask you to commit will be dependent on the size of the grant, but we have some guidance on this. So we suggest ranging from 1 to 3 days of commitment, depending on the size of your grant. So from 10 to 50K on a sliding scale. In terms of finance, so as I've said, the grant will be paid on 50% of the eligible project costs, which will be reimbursed at the end of the project. So Kent County Council, who are our grant giving partner and administrating this, will be the point of contact for this, and they will be asking for evidence at the end of the project of the spending, and so that they can then reimburse the grant. In terms of eligible cost, we have a lot of guidance on what the different eligible costs are, which are currently available on our website. But just to summarize, labour costs. So this is employed staff working directly on the project. Overheads, we ask that a standard, we auto-calculate a standard overhead rate of 20% of labour costs. Material costs can be included if they are used directly on your project. As I mentioned earlier, capital usage, so that's the usage costs of capital assets can be included, and we have some worked examples in our guidance about and a calculator about how you can work this out to put into your costing sheet. Subcontractors can be included, and that can be that's capped at 30% of total project costs. So if your total project cost is £100,000, for instance, the upper end, then you can use 30,000 of that for subcontractors. Travel and subsistence for costs can be included for reasonable costs incurred, and then so these are direct project costs, which are not covered in the other categories. And if you have any questions about what costs are included or not, first port of call would be our further guidance on the website, but then don't hesitate to contact ourselves or Kent County Council, for which we have sort of contact details throughout our documentation. In terms of the legal arrangements or requirements for a business sustainability challenge project, so if your project is successful, or rather your proposal is successful, then we will ask you to sign a contract. You as lead applicant, or at least the lead applicant, will ask them to sign a legal agreement between NIAB and the lead applicant. So there's a copy of this on our webpage, so you can have a look at that and see what you would be committing to if you were successful. So we have Kent County Council, who, as I say, are administering this competition on behalf of Growing Kent and Medway, and they will be doing the grant giving. So that's the blue line. And then we're leaving it up to the lead applicant to arrange a legal agreement through their collaboration agreement with their collaborating partners. And we have some templates that we can provide and we can support in you developing that collaboration agreement upon being. So we expect this once you return your legal agreement to NIAB, so we can work with you if you are successful in developing those. And then the grant funding will be issued to the lead applicant, and it's up to the lead applicant to distribute that through the collaborating partners as per the collaboration agreement. In terms of timeframes for this competition, the competition opens today, hence the briefing. And we have a 2-month window for applications to be submitted, closing midnight on the 30th of April. Applicants are notified, will be notified if you're successful by July. And at this point, when you have a grant offer letter, you may start your project if you wish. But we offer you can defer the start date of your project anytime up until the 1st of October 2024. Projects can last for up to 8 months, but can be shorter if you wish, if it suits the project. And all projects must be completed by the 31st of May 2025. In terms of the application process, we've developed an online application form. This is available through the links at the top right-hand corner. But also, if you go on our webpage, which my colleague will share in the chat, you'll find an Apply Now button. It's a 2-step online application form. So the first step is just some very sort of basic fields, contact details around your email address and your name, and that can be accessed via our webpage, as I say. And then at this point, you'll be sent a full application form link via email, and so you can launch that online application form via this link in the email. Please do allow up to 48 hours from you creating your account to receiving the email with your full application link. It's just a manual process that has to link the account. So it should be sooner than that, but allow up to 48 hours. So within the full application form, there's 7 sections to complete. Company contact details and your company details just help us to understand what sector you're in, operating in, and your geography. Company declaration, there's a few, this is more around subsidy control. So we need to make sure that you're sort of compliant with regards to subsidy thresholds. We ask you to make some company commitments. So this is around social value, reporting, and also monitoring and evaluation that we're required to do as the funder. But we want you to commit to it at this stage. We have a social impact survey. This is just to understand where our funding is going, and so that's a sort of non-mandatory section we'd like you to fill in. And then the meat of the project is, or the application process is your project details. So this is where you can outline your objectives, how you're going to achieve these objectives, some of the risks that you might expect, and some of the impacts that you hope to achieve. And then the final section is the project costs. And we have an eligible cost calculator to help you, that we require you to fill in and hopefully help you to develop your project costs. So it's an Excel spreadsheet which you can download from the website, from the application form. There's a number of tabs along the bottom. There's a guidance sheet explains how to fill it in and what you should be filling it in with. This is the summary costs tab. So this is auto-populated by all the information that you put in the subsequent tabs. That is lead applicant costs here. So filling out all of the green boxes are editable, and then the blue boxes will be auto-populated. or auto-calculated, and then they'll transfer across to the summary costs. And in the summary costs, we just require these two cells highlighted in pink, the total eligible project costs and the value of the grant requested to be transferred onto the online application form. So this will be filled in for each of the lead applicant and then each of the collaborators. If you have more than 5 collaborators, or you have a number of cost lines that this fixed form doesn't allow, then we have an extra large version of this costing calculator that's available on our website. So when you're ready to submit your application, we ask you to, you can submit your application as many times, you can save your application as many times as you want, returning to the online form. But when you're finally ready to submit it for assessment, you're required to tick a box at the end of the form. This will unmask a submit button, and then you hit the submit button. And this will send your application off to the assessment panel. When you do tick this box, you'll be prompted to upload the completed eligible cost calculator, so that Excel file, to support your costs. A box will also appear for you to sign the application. In terms of the assessment process, we'll be assessing this on your applications on a number of criteria. So scope is the first one. Are you the project that you propose aligned to one or more of those 7 themes we talked about earlier on in the presentation? And that's a yes, no answer. And if it's no, then the proposal won't be fundable. So make sure you're aligning to our scope areas. We'll conduct subsidy checks just to ensure that the lead applicant is within the subsidy thresholds required by UK law. Eligibility based on geography will be checked based on the lead partner and where you're based. Be based in the Kent, and also where the project activity will be taking place, and ensuring that there is a place-based element to your application. This is a competitive funding competition, so we will be assessing the project idea and approach based on a number of criteria. And so that will rank projects or score projects rather in terms of the quality of the project that you're proposing. We also will check if you are satisfying our conditional requirements around reporting, around social value, and around monitoring and evaluation. Collaborators will be, you are able to submit an application as a solo applicant, but if, for instance, a proposal is scoring the same and one is collaborative and one isn't, we would favour the collaborative project over a solo applicant. So that's only comes into play if we're oversubscribed and there's a the funding threshold is if your project is around the funding threshold. And we do reserve the right as Growing Kent Medway to take a portfolio approach. That means we want to support different projects across different scope areas in different geographies and different companies. So if we are super oversubscribed to this grant funding, we will use this portfolio approach to ensure we've got a balance of projects. So everything I've said is also encapsulated in our guidance documents, and they're all available on our Business Sustainability Challenge webpage, link for which is here and on this slide, but also will be shared in the chat. So now moving on to round 1 winning projects. So I'll just outline a few of the projects that we funded in round 1 before handing over to Jodie. So in our round 1 competition, we awarded 7 different businesses a share of £260,000. One of which was Nim's Fruit Crisps. So they're based in Sittingbourne, and they have an aspiration to be a zero food waste company. And so they've used this Business Sustainability Challenge project as an opportunity to use surplus fruit and veg from their production system and develop new innovative food and drink products that will help their consumers to reduce their own food waste as well. Grow Up Farm, or Grow Up, is a vertical farming business based in Sandwich, and this funding from Business Sustainability Challenge Round 1 helped them to collaborate or pair up with a spin-out company from the University of Birmingham and utilize and develop their next generation technology for water purifying. And that has enabled them to test how they can recover and reuse rainwater and their runoff water from their production to use less natural resources. Tensai is a company based in Canterbury that specialise in using agri-waste to make new products. So in this project, they're looking at how they can use what they're terming the second harvest. So products or materials from agricultural production that aren't used for food, and using it to create polymer compounds for packaging, and thus reducing plastic waste. And the final one I'm going to talk about is that of ACH Farming. So they lead a large consortium of businesses who are looking at improving the energy efficiency of apple cold stores without compromising the quality of the fruit. So apple cold storage uses a large amount of energy through the winter months, and it is a big cost for apple growers. And so they've teamed up with a number of technology companies to understand how they can make this process more efficient and monitor it and potentially use in a more intelligent way. Okay, I'm going to hand over now back to Nikki to introduce Jodie.
Thanks, Robert. And before I introduce Jodie, I'm just going to sort of reiterate, please put all your questions into the Q&A. We do have a number in there already, and we will be answering those shortly at the end of the presentation. So now I'm going to hand over to Jodie. I'd like to introduce Jodie, who is the Director of Canterbury Brewers and Distillers at the Foundry. Jodie and her partner John successfully received a grant in the first round of the Business Sustainability Challenge. The Foundry have been nominated and won numerous awards for their spirits produced in Canterbury, and Jodie herself has been shortlisted as a finalist in the growth category for Kent Women in Business Awards 2024. So welcome, Jodie, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction there, Nikki. That's really kind. Yeah, so I'm Jodie. I'm from Canterbury Brewers and Distillers at the Foundry Brew Pub in Canterbury. So I don't know if any of you are aware of our business. We are a bar, restaurant, brewery and distillery all on one site in Canterbury. And we're proud producers of over 14 craft beers, real ale and cider, as well as a large spirit range, including vodka, rums, several gins, Kent Apple Pie Moonshine and Kent Whiskey now as well. And then with the help of growing Kent and Medway, we are trialling a wacky concept of growing luxury mushrooms from our waste whiskey grain. So it's a bit of a wild concept, but bear with me and I'll try and explain, how we've got to that element of the business. Yeah, so growing luxury mushrooms. So mushrooms require their soil to be pasteurised to grow. As part of the natural brewing and distilling process, the grain is obviously already pasteurised, making it ideal straight away for growing mushrooms. Mushrooms also require a certain amount of carbon dioxide, which is also a waste product of the whiskey distilling process. So we are capturing that carbon dioxide and using it in our cultivation room, which is pictured there in the middle, to create the optimal environment for growing mushrooms. And then also any wastewater from the whiskey distilling process, we can capture and redirect to cultivate these lovely mushrooms. This idea came about, so ordinarily our waste brewing grain gets collected by a local farmer in Blean. That's the John Graham Centre, and that's fed to their livestock. So already we've got this great process that uses some of our waste energy, but we was looking to take that further as our whiskey production increased, and this is where we've ended up. Next slide, please, Robert. So how has the funding accelerated our business? Well, really, in many more ways than we anticipated, actually. The engagement and interest in this since we've begun sharing the project has been pretty huge, and that has grown on our social media channels and connection within our business, which has been great. I've listed there partnerships and collaborations, and by that we didn't collaborate. This was a solo project, so I don't necessarily mean active collaborations. Has just accelerated our communications really with lots of other local experts in their field. We've had lots of interest from other waste management companies. So somebody in Australia contacted us, interested in what we're doing, and sharing some ideas with what they're doing with their waste product from their wine production. So that's fantastic. I put their potential expansion opportunities, and we wasn't quite prepared for this, but it's opened up this idea that actually we could really expand on what we're already doing, not just within our premises, but there's this whole opportunity really to whole whiskey brownfield site in a separate location. So it'd be whiskey production and mushrooms all in one centre. So that would be a great opportunity for us. And the potential to open up new revenue streams. Obviously, we're going to have an end product that's for human consumption. So when we started the idea, you obviously just think, oh, that's great. We could potentially sell them and serve them within our restaurant. As it turns out, we're several months into the project. It's looking like we're going to have quite a substantial amount of mushrooms. So we need to start looking at what we could potentially do with all of those. And the learning and skills and development. Obviously, it's not just John and I that are learning through this journey. We've had 2 dedicated members of staff that have increased their learning and skills development, and that will only grow as the project grows. So next slide, please, Robert. What are the results looking like? It's been a great journey of discovery, really exciting. It's been up and down, so there's been lots of, a concept, and we're trialing it, so it's not all plain sailing. Lots of things kind of go wrong and you go back to the beginning, but that's all part of the fun of the project, really. We have successfully grown 2 lovely types of mushrooms. We've grown blue oyster and black pearl mushrooms, and we've all eaten them at the pub. They taste amazing, so that's just amazing in itself. And we've also learned, like I said before, like you thought, oh, we might just have like a few mushrooms. And it turns out, we brew whiskey once a week, every Wednesday. From that one brew, we estimate that we can yield 160 kilograms of mushrooms. So we're now, really looking at what we can do with those, that large amount of mushrooms. Next slide, please, Robert. So talk a little bit about our social value commitment. I'm hoping really that speaks for myself. I'm hoping that there's some people on this webinar today that have already heard about what we're doing, and that, you know, that is already growing, you know, in our community. Our staff are really proud of what they're involved in, really proud in sharing that to our customers, which I think in turn is, you know, inspiring them to think about, you know, not just what we're doing, but perhaps what, you know, they're doing in society and their role in sustainable innovations. Job creation and community engagement. Yes, I've mentioned the community engagement already, but in terms of job creation, you know, there's 2 active members of the Foundry that are working on this project with us. Towards the end of the project, this could potentially create, you know, several new jobs in the local economy, which is, you know, fantastic. And the educational opportunities and innovative solutions. So yeah, we're providing educational opportunities for our customers and the community, and this is raising awareness within the community. Next slide, please, Robert. So the application process, yeah, so that's why you're all watching today, really wanted to know a bit more about that. It's great that they're doing, you know, you can book onto, you know, a one-on-one session at the end. I, you know, definitely advise that if you've got a, you know, if you've got an idea already, I think hop on one of those one-on-ones and just, you know, begin that process of talking it through, really, because we were surprised at how much input from Growing Kent and Medway, like how helpful they are, and how many connections they've got. So it might be a, you know, a small idea that, you know, you've got already that can really, you know, blow up and expand with the help of Growing Kent and Medway. 2 months to apply from today, so that's a lot of time, really, to do quite an, you know, an easy application. It's just dedicating a little time out in your calendar to get that done. Yeah, and they provided lots of advice and support. Their network of people is huge, so that's a real positive. And I think that's it, Robert. Yeah, I'm going to stay around on the end of the session if you've got any direct questions for me.
Thank you so much, Jodie. That was really, really interesting. And I think it really helps bring to life what a project can look like and the impact it can have on your business and how you've approached it. So yeah, it'd be great if you could just stay on for the Q&A and if any, you know, answer any questions that you think might be pertinent to yourself as well. So we will now go into our Q&A session. And we've got a number of questions already in the chat. So I'm just gonna go through these as they've come in. So the first question is, I don't understand the difference between capital cost and the use of capital cost. Does it mean a machine cannot be bought, but one could rent a machine? So Rob, are you happy to take that question?
Sure. Yes. Sorry, I didn't explain it very well. And we have got, as I say, worked examples in the guidance notes. But first of all, the distinction between capital grant and capital usage grant. So you can't just buy a capital item with this grant and claim 50% back on it. But if you bought that capital item, it would have an original cost. You'd then look at your depreciation of that capital item over a set period of time. Call it 60 months, 5 years. And then you would look at how long this project is, so up to 8 months. And then the utilization within that 8 months for the actual project work that you're going to be using it for. And that could be, say, 50% utilization. So you'd enter all of those figures into our capital usage data, the figure of what is eligible. That's your capital usage cost, which could then be, you know, that's can attract grant. In terms of rental, that's a different, that would come on, or a rental of a piece of equipment, that would come under other costs. And we have some guidance around that, but basically the rental of an item, you would look at the utilization again within the project of that. And if it's 100%, then you could claim against the rental. It doesn't have a sort of value after the project because you'll stop renting it. So yeah, that's a different category.
Thank you, Rob. We will be putting all the answers into our FAQ, which will be updated and put on our website as well. So all the answers to these questions will go on our website. Let's move on. I mean, capital usage is quite it's one we get some of the most questions about. So do get in touch with us if you've got any queries around what capital usage means for you and the project you're thinking of. So definitely recommend you getting in touch with one of us to talk about that if you've got any questions. Let's move on to the next question. This is a question from Andrew. Would a soft fruit plant propagation business be viable? We don't produce food directly, but our customer does. I think, I mean, I'll take this question if you might want to add something to it, Rob, on the back of it, but we do support industries and businesses that supply into the sector. So this grant is about supporting innovation. So if you've got an innovative idea that ultimately supports and feeds into the supply of food and food production, then we would probably deem that eligible. But what I would say is, with that query, get in contact with one of our innovation growth managers, such as Rob, or any of our other colleagues on the line. And, you know, that's an opportunity to really ask them what you're thinking of doing, but then to really understand how it fits the scope of this competition. Rob, have you got anything to add to that?
No, that's
okay. We'll move on then to Alex. So, hi, the question is, hi, if GKM were to support 50% funding, are there restrictions about how the other 50% might be raised? For example, another grant from similarly committed organisations or a bigger collaborator who might not be eligible. So I'll hand over to Rob for this, but what I will say, we are funded by UK government, so UK Research and Innovation. We probably can't accept an equivalent match of funding coming from the same organisation. So that's something you would have to check with us, but I'll hand over to Rob for more of a general answer to that question as well.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be on a case-by-case basis. So do come and talk to us in your particular case. But yeah, we sort of require that co-investment to come from the company. And so we'd have to understand, you know, where that money originally came from. It might not be any of our business, but if it was a UK government grant, then you can't use that to leverage more UK government grants. So in terms of the second bit of that question, sorry, Nikki, I've lost my thread, but
yeah. Want me to read it again?
Just the second bit.
Yeah, for example, another grant, sorry, a bigger collaborator who might not be eligible.
Sorry, thank you. So yes, in terms of if you're a SME or small, micro, small or medium-sized enterprise based in Kent, and as you recognise, you can partner with a company of any size across the UK, and that might be a large company. And although their costs can be included in the total project cost, they can't claim any grant. So you, as the lead applicant, you know, you will claim that grant and you will distribute it amongst your partners according to the collaboration agreement. So there are ways that you could potentially bring in a large company to be involved in your project.
Thanks, Rob. And it's probably just worth reiterating that we do have subcontractor costs as well that are eligible, up to a maximum of 30% of the grant itself, so of the total project costs. So if you've got any queries around that, do get in touch and with your individual case, and we will go through what the options are for you in that case. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is from Monica. She has a question around the Kent and Medway focus. Does the lead applicant have to be registered in Kent or Medway, or would, let's say, a London-based SME that has 90% work in Kent and Medway be eligible? Kay, would you like to answer this one? Kay from Kent County Council, because Kent County Council do all the eligibility checking for our grants. I'm not sure if Kay's on the line.
Yeah, I am. I'm absolutely here. Yeah, thank you, Nikki. Hi, Monica. Yes, so essentially a business does need to be registered in Kent or Medway to be eligible. Understanding that your question is around a London-based SME that has 90% of work in Kent and Medway. Unfortunately, the business itself would need to be registered and carry out its business in Kent and Medway. So both of those elements would need to be a yes in order to be eligible.
Thank you, Kay. It's probably worth saying that a business outside of Kent can be a collaborator, though, with a lead partner that is based in Kent and Medway. And
I'd just like to add, sorry, Nikki, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
If you have a trading address in a Kent and Medway, that will count towards sort of presence in the region. So it is registered address or trading address.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Kay. Next question. Does anyone have any grant writer contacts they could share? One for you, Rob, maybe.
Well, we could. I don't, but maybe Nikki does. I don't know. We could find some potentially if we get in touch or recommend.
Yeah, what we can do is we can probably put you in touch with the KTN and some other partners that do national grant competitions, and they will have a list of grant writing contacts that we can probably pass on to you if you're interested. So we would reach out to some of our other wider networks for help to help you with that, if that's what you were after. Next question then. This is from Alex. So creating traction fast might mean accelerating part of a bigger project first. Can we work on a long-term annual approach to delivering constituent parts, say, over a 5-year period? I think if our view would be, if I understand your question correctly, is this project has to be a sort of standalone deliverable project, but our view probably would be that it can be part of a bigger ambition to deliver an innovative aspect to your business. But it would have to be a standalone project in itself that is delivering that innovation within the scope of what we're asking for, basically. But it is always nice to see the bigger picture of how that particular part of the project is going to be commercialized and exploited. Rob, have you got anything to add to that question?
Yeah, just that we would welcome sort of accelerating traction and such, but or giving traction. But indeed, our sort of whole grant program has been geared up to sort of we welcome sort of applicants who have interacted with previous grants to develop their idea or develop another part of their idea in this competition, for instance. So Jodie, for instance, has got loads of new ideas from this current project and looking at what's the next step. And I don't know if I could invite Jodie to the floor to sort of say what they, you know, not necessarily what you want to go on to do, but that this could trigger, you know, the bigger picture or further exploitation.
Yeah. Jodie, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, no, not particularly, other than yes, it has triggered lots of new ideas and ambitions from doing this project. But we're just going to focus on finishing this project and then see where the next idea takes us next. But it has opened up lots of new possibilities for us as a business.
Thanks, Jodie. Jodie, can I just ask on the back of that, did you apply for grant funding before this award? Are you as a business experienced with applying for grant funding?
No, we're not. So no, this is the first grant funding that we have received.
Okay, and do you think on the back of that then you would actually be more open to exploring other grant funding opportunities that are offered both regionally and nationally now? Yeah,
100%. Now we've actually, just bit the bullet really and gone for it. We've learned actually how much easier it was than we anticipated in terms of all the help that you've given us, really. Like, it's made it really, really easy to get going with it. And we realised that without that support, we wouldn't make the progress that we have. So we realise how important it is to seek out these funding opportunities, really.
Okay, super. Thanks, Jodie. Okay, back to the questions. We have another question that asks, I am in the stage of startup. Am I eligible for this funding? I think, Kay, you might want to answer that question, because I know we're trying to encourage as many types of businesses as possible to access this funding, but we do have some criteria that startups will have to meet because we have a responsibility for giving out public funding. So, Kay, are you happy to take that question?
Yeah, definitely, Nikki. So thank you again for the question here. So in terms of trading and being a startup business wouldn't necessarily be a barrier to applying for the grant. The main thing that we'd be looking for is evidence of trading. So you would need to provide evidence, for example, of being a sole trader, or evidence such as on Companies House as of being a limited company or a partnership. So like I say, any evidence that you can provide, such as HMRC documentation, or in the case of being a limited company, we can take evidence on Companies House. The fact that you wouldn't have any trading history wouldn't be a barrier at all. So you can as a startup business apply for this grant. And that wouldn't be an issue in itself. But like I say, you do need to have evidence of being a business to begin with.
Thank you, Kay. The next question is around the recording, so that will be available online afterwards. So we will be, I think, circulating that to people registered as well. I think the next question again is for you, Kay. Is there a map for geographical eligibility for this grant?
Yes, so in terms of there is an eligible area, and essentially it would cover all of the districts within Kent, so all 13 districts. You would need to check the postcode. So I think the easiest way to define, for example, if you are on the borders in Dartford and Sevenoaks, typically, where there might be some disparity in postcode area, I would suggest checking your postcode. There is a .gov postcode checker, and as long as you pay your business rates to a Kent-based council, then you would be eligible for the project. If you are over the border, such as in Dartford, some areas or postcode areas in Dartford fall under the London Borough of Bexley or Bromley. Unfortunately, you wouldn't be eligible in those instances, but the easiest rule of thumb is if you pay your business rates to a Kent-based council, you will be eligible for this project.
Thank you, Kay. And I think also, I think Robert's going to say what I was about to say. Go on, Rob.
Well, no, only that we've got an actual list of postcodes that Growing Kent Medway as a project that we define as Kent Medway. So that's available in the supporting documents. You'll be sort of channeled towards it through all of the supporting documents. So you'll find that.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which I think probably best if Kay answers this one as well. How do you define a medium-sized business? What's the eligibility criteria?
Yeah, sure. So I'm happy to answer that as well. So small and medium-sized enterprises are defined by the Companies Act 2006 to be an SME if they fall within certain size limits set for a financial year. So there are 3 categories or 3 limits, and 2 out of the 3 of those limits need to be met. So turnover, not more than £43.2 million gross or £36 million net. Balance sheet total not more than £26.6 million gross or £18 million net. And the third category is monthly average of employees of not more than 250. So that applies to be classed as a small or medium-sized enterprise. You need to meet 2 out of those 3 criteria. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Kay. And more comprehensive details are in our guidance on that. Okay, next question from Rebecca. So maybe this is one for you, Rob. We are looking to develop a new educational model to support and provide accessible agroecology education integrated into the curriculum and supporting the local East Kent food economy. This is a very broad project, including food production and further education training opportunity. Would you recommend focusing on one specific area of the project or consider this funding as part of the broader scope? Are you happy to take that one, Rob?
Yep, certainly. So as it stands, or as I hear it now, it wouldn't sort of fit under our sort of remit of needing to be a innovative project in terms of technically innovative. What I would want to do, though, is recommend you book on to one of the one-on-one sessions, Rebecca, after this, and Nikki will explain how to do that, and we can have a chat about what that looks like and how it can work potentially. So yeah, if you're available later today, one-to-one, otherwise contact me via email and we can take that offline.
Super. Thank you, Rob. And the last question that I can see in front of me is one for Jodie. So Monica says, great example. Thank you, Jodie. How much funding did you get from the project fund, and is the project still ongoing? Are you able to take that, Jodie?
Yes, I believe I am. Yes, so our total project was £26,500. The project is still ongoing. It's due to finish around April time, and we obviously so 50% of that is about £13,500 from us. Does that answer your question, Monica?
I think so. Thank you, Jodie. Good. So I think that's all the questions in the chat, unless any of the team tell me otherwise. Yeah, Monica says thank you. Yes, Jodie. So thank you for that. So as Rob mentioned earlier, there is lots of opportunity to talk to the team about putting an application in, or if you've got any questions still on the back of this briefing. One of the options is to book a confidential 15-minute chat with one of our innovation growth managers, such as Robert, who's on the chat with us today. You can do this by following the bit.ly link on the website in front of you, on the page in front of you, or you can scan the QR code that's in front of us right now. That does work. I tested it earlier. So and that will take you directly to Calendly, and you can find an available slot there and book with one of our innovation growth managers for a confidential chat. So that time is between 12:30 and 5 o'clock today. That's when there's available slots. Alternatively, you can email us at contact@growingkentamedway.com or email our innovation growth managers directly. So that's Robert's email at the bottom of the screen there as well. I do recommend you have a chat before submitting an application, just to make sure you are in scope, and because there's a lot of effort to go to, if your initial project's not eligible because it's not in scope. So I do advise you talking to our friendly advisors. Robert, is there anything I've missed on that slide that you'd like to highlight?
No, no, that's good. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I think that brings us to the end of this briefing session then. Here's the link again to set up a one-to-one meeting. Thank you all ever so much for attending. If you've got any further questions, don't hesitate to get in contact and ask us. As I said earlier, all the technical questions will be put into our FAQ, which will be posted and updated online shortly today as well. And our business briefing, the recording of this will also be available online and through our website. So thank you all so much, and hope to see a lot of excellent and exciting applications coming into the challenge itself. Thank you.